Hi, this is Janice Perkins, and I'm coming to you with the third episode of the Hope Chronicles. And what I wanted to give you today is a little bit more history of why hope matters so much to me and why it's something that I've talked about for years and shared with others. About 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with a chronic autoimmune disorder that really impacted my health in a very serious way. And I was about 85 pounds. I always say sopping wet holding my purse because I was probably much thinner than that. And I'm not a big person to start with, but my body was deteriorating and disappearing. It wasn't just chronic long term wrestling, which I did for many years, but it was something that was really sucking the life out of me, quite literally. And I didn't know I was going to survive. So it was a very dark period. It was a very difficult period. I nearly lost my vision and couldn't drive for a long time. And I just struggled with many different aspects of my health, and all the while trying to work and be a mom. So the struggle was real. And I know that this time period might be difficult for all of us. It's challenging us in new ways. But there were a lot of people who are already been challenged before this started. And I really just want to speak an extra measure of hope over each of you today. And that I just really pray for your spirits to be resolved and not think about this as another layer of difficulty, but just focus on still day to day and that hope matters regardless of where you started at the beginning of this. And that I can understand and relate to that. In fact, I remember specifically at one point in the winter when I was really ill. We got like, I don't know, 23 inches of snow. Some of you may remember that almost 10 years ago, 9 years ago. And everybody was snowed in and you couldn't get to hospitals or anywhere. And I just kept thinking, what happens if I need to get to the hospital? That was the thing that kept me worried and in fear, was being locked down and sick. And so there are a lot of you who are struggling in that place right now. And the thing I want to tell you about hope today is one of the other things that I read about in science, and I'm going to read it to you here, is that for those of us who have hope, the body naturally releases endorphins and enkephalins. I don't know if I'm saying that word right because I've never heard it before, which reduce pain. And in effect, they give comfort and reduce the fight or flight mechanism that reduces stress. It actually mimics morphine in the mind as a stress or a pain reducer. Really, maybe a lot of us right now, not just those who were wrestling chronic illness or really serious issues before this quarantine and difficulty started for our world and our culture, but a lot of us need that stress reducer. So if we can actually generate hope within ourselves, we can reduce our own stress and produce things that actually move us down the road of health and healing. And that's one of the most important things that I want you to understand. And I'm going to go back to some word nerding for a quick second and talk to you about one of the words in Hebrew that means hope. And it's mekase, and it actually means refuge, shelter, or trust. And the thing I want you to understand about hope is that it actually can be that refuge or safe place. That if you go into yourself and you trust there is a better day coming and that this season too will pass, and you really anchor to that belief, that it can shelter you and protect you, and within that, also reduce your stress, which is something that all of us need. So, as you think about hope this week and building up hope and the beliefs that you have about good days coming and this season coming to an end, that it can really be a shelter for you and it can reduce the stress you're under before this season and during this season. And it's something that you can go back to historically, like I mentioned before, and rely on in future seasons of trauma. Thank you for joining me again for another episode of the Hope Chronicles. Stay tuned for more information as we learn how to continue to build up our vessel of hope for traumatic times. Thank you.